I had dinner with some friends the other evening, and they're about to become grandparents. And so the woman who is soon to be a grandmother was telling me a story about her son who's soon to be a father. This happened maybe when the boy was about 9 years old. But both of them still remember it as if it was yesterday. The mother and son were having one of those conversations, and the boy said to his mother, "Prove to me that you love me more than I love you." And the mother said to the boy, "I'm willing to give my life for you." And with that, the boy got up and he went out to play. He was gone all day. But when he came home that evening, he said to his mother, "Ma, you win." Love always wins. But love wins by losing your life for another. It's a paradox. The Christian perspective can absorb and appreciate paradox, which is order within disorder, redemption through tragedy, resurrection through death, divinity through humanity. In today's gospel, Jesus praises the Father. At that time, Jesus said, "I thank you, Father, Lord of heaven and earth, because you have hidden these things from the wise and the intelligent and have revealed them to infants." This prayer comes at the end of a very difficult period for Jesus. At the beginning of this chapter, chapter 11, John the Baptist sent a messenger to Jesus to ask, "Are you the one who is to come, or should we look for another?" Jesus went through 2 cities, Chorazin and Bethsaida, both of whom rejected him. And the people of Capernaum were not all that friendly. Jesus' mission was not meeting much success. The Pharisees and the teachers of the law were resisting him. The wise and intelligent were not convinced. But in the face of this apparent defeat, Jesus praises the Father, for Jesus recognizes that the Father's will continues to unfold even when things do not seem to be going all that well. It's easy when things are going well to open ourselves to others, to include them in our joy, to go out of our way for them. But when things are not going well, we close in, we lock the doors, and we push others away. But Jesus does exactly the opposite. In difficult times, Jesus yoked himself more closely to the Father, and he invites us to do the same. "Take my yoke upon you and learn from me." The word religion, religio in Latin, in part means to bind ourselves. So instead of being a restrictive and burdensome way to live, this teaching of Jesus is freeing. It lightens burdens of oppression. This, of course, is the opposite of what some of the other religious leaders of Jesus' day do. They tie up heavy burdens, hard to bear, and lay them on the shoulders of others, but they themselves are unwilling to lift a finger to move them. Matthew 23. By contrast, Jesus' disciples are yoked with him and one another, intent on lifting the weight born of injustice from the backs of the downtrodden. We bind ourselves to Jesus so that we might learn the compassion of God. There's a story told about a young man, a Scotsman, who was carrying his younger brother on his back. And a man came up to him and said, "That's quite a burden you're bearing." And the Scotsman says, "That's not a burden. That's my wee brother." Compassion helps us to see ourselves, the other, and even God with God's own eyes, which are always eyes of compassion. It is from this place that true action must spring. Antoine de Saint-Exupéry told the secret in The Little Prince. It is only with the heart that one can see rightly. What is essential is invisible to the eye. We hope that the heart remembers that Isaac and Ishmael are brothers, that they are both sons of Abraham. For Jesus prayed, I thank you, Father, for you have hidden these things from the wise and intelligent and have revealed them to infants. The tensions in the Holy Land between Isaac and Ishmael are not just in that land, but even in our own country. In Marietta, California this week, perhaps you were as disturbed as I was with this demonstration, this witnessing against the refugees who were seeking shelter in our land. But I realized that the people who are protesting are reacting out of fear. And they're in need of compassion and understanding, just as the children and mothers in the buses that they are trying to push back. Only when we can move past our own fear can we begin to understand that we are witnessing a humanitarian crisis. The situation in the home countries of these children is so desperate that their parents are willing to send these children off alone in the hopes, literally, of saving their lives. But this was not the only group demonstrating in Marietta this week. There were others who voiced different hopes to embrace and welcome all God's children. But how do we open up the fearful heart to embrace and welcome all? We once believed these words engraved on a bronze plaque inside the Statue of Liberty, which seems to echo Jesus' words, "Come to me, all you that are weary. Give me, you're tired, you're poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free. The wretched refuse of your teeming shore, send these, the homeless, tempest-tossed to me. I lift my lamp beside the golden door." How do we move out of a place of fear into a place of welcome? We can only do that if we're willing to lay our burden down in order to help relieve the burden of someone else. The Tibetan Buddhist teacher, Pema Chodron, author, nun, and mother, is a notable American figure in Tibetan Buddhism. Chodron shares the practice of what she calls, in Buddhist tradition, Tonglen, as a way of holding suffering and awakening compassion. But she notes this: in order to have compassion for others, we have to have compassion first for ourselves. The Tonglen practice is a method of connecting with suffering, ours and that which is all around us, everywhere we go. We begin the practice by taking on the sufferings of a person that we know is hurting and whom we wish to help. For instance, if you know of a child who's being hurt, you breathe in the wish and take away all the pain and fear of that child. And then as you breathe out, you send the child happiness, joy, or whatever would relieve their pain. This is the core of the practice, breathing in others' pain so that they can be well and have more space to relax and open. And breathing out, sending them relaxation or whatever you feel would bring them relief and happiness. The problem, of course, is that we cannot do this practice because we come face to face with our own fear, our own resistance, anger, or whatever our personal pain, our personal stuckness, whatever burden we are bearing. And at that point, you can change the focus and begin to do Tonglen for what you are feeling, and millions of others just like you, who at that moment in time are feeling the exact same stuckness and burden. So you breathe in for all the people who are caught with that same emotion, and you send out relief, or whatever opens up the space for yourself and all those countless others. In this way, Jesus promises, you will find rest for your souls. The path to rest is not one of avoidance of pain, nor using force to rid ourselves of pain, but rather a path of connection, binding ourselves to one another in humility and gentleness of heart. The rest that Jesus promises is the Sabbath rest. On the Sabbath, God is not taking a day off, but rather the Sabbath rest is a day of restorative rest, when all things are in balance and harmony, when creation is complete, and God rests holding the rhythm of creation in harmony and balance. The Son is one with the Father, and anyone to whom the Son wishes to reveal him. Come to me, take my yoke upon you, so that you too may be in communion with God and enter in to the Father's rest.